with Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by the border. The nation's southern border is once again overrun by illegal aliens taking advantage of porous border policy. Sex offenders and gang members, a Turkish national suspected of providing assistance to terrorist organizations in Texas, multiple homicide suspects in Arizona, all part of the minority apprehended in the last week. This photo shows a large stream of illegals trekking through a private ranch in Kinney County, Texas, late last week, adding to the total of at least 300,000 so-called known getaways since October. Congressman Chip Roy absolutely lit up Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas over his lack of action at the Mexico border.
Mr. Secretary, do you know what this is? This is a mobile morgue, a body trailer, needed by counties in South Texas overwhelmed by dead migrants. That particular trailer is filled with these bodies, 27 bodies that were stored in this mobile morgue in South Texas with dead bodies of migrants. Dead bodies like this one found on a ranch just 3 weeks ago in South Texas. A dead migrant. Somehow that's compassion. How about the dead bodies found by migrants? Compassion. How about the ranchers who had to walk out of their door, and this is what they faced. Gentlemen with rocks threatening a rancher in South Texas, only able to be saved when they were able to bring their dogs out to scare the people away in order to save themselves. Or the fact that you've got houses being attacked, you've got livestock dead on the side because we've got ranches wide open. How about the little girl here with a brand on her arm? A little girl with a brand on her arm because of your policies. A little girl here in the desert found by ranchers trying to save their life. And how about the lost voices from people dying from fentanyl? The tens of thousands of Americans dying from fentanyl. Faces of Americans across this country dying because of fentanyl pouring into our country.
Time of the gentleman has expired.
You know full well.
Time of the gentleman has expired, Ms.
Encouraging people to come here, harming Texas and harming this country. You know it.
Meanwhile, at the White House,
I think ever since you've come into office, things are really looking up. You know, gas is up, rent is up, food is up.
that's the White House Correspondents' Dinner, which Dr. Anthony Fauci said last week he could not attend after deciding it was too risky. But he did attend the pre-party maskless to take this selfie with CNN host Don Lemon. Enhance. Yes, that's the help in the background, dutifully wearing his mask. Anyway, back to DHS Chief Alejandro Mayorkas. You remember last week he announced a so-called Disinformation Governance Board. That brings us to this. This woman is Nina Jankowicz.
What does it take to be famous and powerful? Santa, if you're listening, please tell me what to do. Who do I to be famous and powerful?
Apparently, Kamala Harris clued her in because Jankowicz is the woman tapped by Mayorkas and the Biden administration to head up the new Ministry of Truth. Let's take a look at her record. Back in early 2020, she said the executive branch shouldn't be policing what is and isn't fake news.
Imagine that, you know, with President Trump right now calling all of these news organizations that have inconvenient for him stories that they're getting out there, that he's calling fake news and now lashing out at platforms. I would never want to see our executive branch have that sort of power. And that's why, you know, the legislative process with our duly elected officials is really important, that sort of consultative rulemaking process.
Also back in 2020, she called herself a lockdown evangelist, said the U.S. is too free-spirited when it comes to lockdowns. Quote, so force away, lock us down. People are not taking this seriously. She also called for a ban on advertisements for face masks in early March of 2020, calling their use pure disinformation before tweeting in December. Imagine all the deaths that could have been avoided if they had done the same with mask wearing in March and April. She's also quite proficient at cringe.
Information laundering is really quite ferocious. It's when a huckster takes some lies and makes them sound precocious by saying them in Congress or a mainstream outlet. So disinformation's origins are slightly less atrocious.
Alejandro Mayorkas told Politico over the weekend that calling the Ministry of Truth is just misinformation. Moving on, and in completely unrelated news, the New York Times published a multi-part hit piece on Fox News host Tucker Carlson over the weekend, attempting to smear him as racist. As political strategist Greg Price pointed out, in their effort, the New York Times traced Carlson's ancestors back to 1850, assigned 9 reporters to watch every episode of his show, but couldn't be bothered to ask Hunter Biden if he ever forgot a laptop at a repair shop. CNN, your thoughts?
We gave over our what amounts to our airwaves or our internet waves to Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk. And we are in so much trouble. You need controls on this. You need regulation. You cannot let these guys control discourse in this country, or we are headed to hell. We are there.
Groomer update, meet Nashville's trans, queer, Latinx, neurodivergent public theologian. What? It's real.
The not yet is the imaginal space of becoming. The not yet is in the space of a realized utopia. The not yet is the Christian message that we must embody in critical and creative ways.
By transmitting the effervescence of the Indonesian proximity in order to further segregate the crux of my venereal infection.
And finally, Senator Ted Cruz tweets, Eid Mubarak to all Muslims celebrating in Texas and around the world. Heidi and I want to wish you and your families a blessed Eid. And that's what happened while we were away.
I can't.